Hello, Thunder Wizards. All right, so thought I'd get a live Q&A in before the weekend ends. Might be difficult because I'm coming on kind of late because, as I said, I'm having trouble streaming during the optimum times here on the West Coast. So hopefully it's not too late for you, or maybe if you're on the other side of the world, like in Australia and New Zealand, maybe it's the perfect time for you. All right, so I want to talk to you about the Arudha Lagna. What is the Arudha Lagna? If you're not familiar with it, the Arudha Lagna is the Arudha of your Lagna. Your Lagna is your rising sign. In Vedic astrology, we use your rising sign as your sign because it changes every 15 minutes, and it is Lagna means screwed into place, which means when you were born, you were screwed into place, and we use the rising sign, which is the ascendant, to dictate how you view things. It's the glasses through which you view your world. My rising sign in Vedic is a Leo, so I see my world from the vantage point of Leo. We don't go by the sun sign like we do in Western, and we're 24 degrees off from Western. So don't try and apply everything I'm saying to your Western chart. It won't work. You're going to need to get a Vedic astrological reading to know what your Vedic ascendant sign is, because that's how we determine what your reflection is. If you want a reading, you can go to astrology.thunderwizard.com. Also make sure to subscribe and hit the bell button, okay, so that you can be notified whenever I've uploaded a video or when I'm doing a live Q&A. So I just recently did a video of the Arudha Lagna in different houses. And thankfully, one of my students reminded me, something I had forgotten, which I shouldn't have forgotten, but the Arudha Lagna will not land in certain houses. Let me see if I remember. It won't land in the second. It won't land in the 6th, or the 8th, or the 12th. So, and it's not that it's against the rules, it's just the way you calculate what the reflection is, it won't land in any one of those houses. I'm pretty sure I got those right. So go back and watch that, and just whatever I said about the 2nd, the 6th, the 8th, and the 12th, forget about that, because your Arudha will never be in any of those houses, okay? So I talked about what in that video I was trying to talk about what the function of that house will be for you. So again, the Arudha is your reflection. You have an experience of yourself, but people do not know you, the real you. This is the truth of the matter. In fact, your whole purpose in life is to learn who the real you is. You also don't know who the real you is either. And so people also won't know who the real you are. But what they will know is what is reflected off of your ascendant, your point of view, which is your face. Literally, your first house is your face, your physical body. And so the Arudha is the reflection, the light that bounces off of you, the energy that bounces off of you. When you walk into a room, you know, I walk into the room with a moon, which is, I was born on a new moon, so I have moon issues, so the mind and the emotions. And I'm in Leo, so I'm this very sensitive, very emotional Leo, right? But that's not what people see. When I walk into the room, they see my Arudha, which is my reflection. So when the energy that bounces off of me creates this illusion of being what is in my 3rd house. Yours is going to be in a different house than mine, most likely. So don't try and look, oh, my 3rd house is my Arudha. No, your Arudha is going to be different. And if you want to learn how to calculate your Arudha, you can go here. You can go to 241.thunderwizard.com, because this month only, the month of May 2019, I am giving half off of astrology certification courses. And you can go to astrologycertification.thunderwizard.com to find out what that means. You can also go to runecertification.thunderwizard.com to find out what it is to be a certified rune reader. This month only, you can get, for the price of one certification, you're going to get two. And that will only last this month. In any case, if you don't know what your Aruta is, and you want to figure that out, you can go to astrology.thunderwizard.com. That's one of the main things that I put into my reading. I create, my style of Vedic astrology readings is very specific. And other astrologers know this. It's not that this is hidden from them, it's just that a lot of them, don't put it into their readings because most people either don't know about it or, they want something superficial, like when is a good time for me to invest this, what's going to happen in my marriage this year, and what about kids, and how else, these kinds of superficial things. For me, I want to know what is going to help me throughout my whole life, okay? And so the Aruta is one of those things, because that doesn't change throughout your life. Your Aruta is always the same. Your reflection, the illusion, your costume, your part. You are playing a part in this play called life. And so it is important for you to know what that is, because if you don't know what that is, then success will elude you. Your success is hinged on you being able to allow other people to see you as you are being reflected to them. Some people naturally do that. If they're comfortable with themselves and if they have a really cool Aruta, they naturally just show up as that. My experience with the Aruta is that most people that I give readings for, when I tell them what their Aruta is, I find out that this is something that they would dress up for as Halloween. So in other words, if you gave them an excuse, there's a costume party, what is your character? Many times they will want to dress up as their Aruta or very similar to that. For instance, for me, like if I were to go to a costume party, I would go as a gladiator. I would wear a sleeveless shirt and the thing and the leather belt and do all that. And that would be a fun character to play, but I wouldn't walk around like that. The truth of the matter is, if I did walk around like that, it would serve me well. It would give me a lot of success if I did that. So we're going to talk about the Aruta in different signs. So this is a very complex thing, because your Aruta is going to be in a specific house. Like I said, it's either going to be in the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 7th, 9th, 10th, or 11th house. Your Aruta will be one of those houses in your chart. Again, look for a Vedic chart. Don't try and figure it out from your Western chart. It's going to be in one of those houses. And so there's going to be a specific sign. So each house of the 12 houses has a sign. And everybody's chart is a little bit different. Since mine is Leo, my first house is the 5th sign of Leo. My second house is Virgo, my third house is Libra, my 4th house is Scorpio. So yours is different. If you're an Aries, right, then your first house will be Aries, your second house will be Taurus, your third house will be Gemini. So everybody's different. If you're a Pisces, right? So wherever your Aruta lands in your chart, it will be in a specific sign. Now, if there are planets in the house where your Aruta is, that is going to add more layers to it. And it can be actually quite interesting if you have, let's say, a bunch of planets in your Aruta. So if let's say you have Mars and Venus in Scorpio in the, which house do we want to put it in? Mars and Scorpio in the 3rd house. That's going to make you a really intense. Your reflection will be really intense. It'll be because Mars. What did I say? Mars and Venus. So Mars and Venus don't really mesh well together, but they can create an incredibly highly sexual, highly sexually aggressive person. You put it in Scorpio, it makes it deep and intense. Somebody that, when it comes to things associated with that, they grab a hold of you and they're really super intense and they want to get to know the deepest part of you. Or they fall in love with you, they might become obsessive. So, if that was your Arudha, those two planets, Venus and Mars in Scorpio, creates a 3-layered thing. Because the first thing, it's actually 4 layers. The first thing you want to look at is what is the house? Because that'll tell you the function. Mine is in the 3rd house. It means communicator. So people see me as a communicator. One of the first things they notice about me. The second thing they look for, or the second thing that will affect it, the second thing that will affect it is what sign it's in. So again, mine is Libra. Libra is the sign of balance. It's the sign of Venus in terms of a fair balance, exchange of energy. It's a good deal. The sign of friends, the sign of merchants who give great deals, the sign of mediators and counselors and even healers and shamans can be Libra. So the 3rd house in Libra means a communicator of balance. And then you add the planet in there. For mine is Mars. Mars is the warrior. The warrior who communicates balance. Now, if you really get precise about it, which I'm not even going to attempt to do at this stage, that's years later probably, is to look at the nakshatras, because underneath the sign and the planet and the house is the nakshatra. And the nakshatra is very specific slices of star constellations. Each nakshatra has 4 sections to it. So if you know which section of which nakshatra your planet is sitting on, that gives it an even deeper level. Again, in mine is, I won't give you, I forget the name of it, Swati Padatu, which is ruled by Rahu, Rahu is the innovator, the communicator. So here we have the 3rd house, and we have Mars, and then we have Rahu coming up through the Mars in the 3rd house. So you got massive communication. So what is it that I do? I do videos on the internet, which goes all over the world, which is Rahu. So if you can see what that is and splice it out exactly, you'll know where your success is. Because this isn't me, this is my projection to the world. It is my personal belief, because I have such strong experience with this, and I do so many charts and give people so many Arudas, that what I've found is that it is my belief that the Aruda, which is your reflection, is based on things that you have accomplished in previous lives. And so these are traits and powers that you bring with you. It's like a superpower that you bring with you from a previous life that you may or may not be aware of. It's sort of like, when you watch the superhero movies and the guy finds some special thing and it goes to his chest, and then he starts to learn all of his powers as he goes, or he finds a super suit, an alien suit, and he puts it on and it molds to his DNA, and the next thing you know, he can fly and he can jump, and each week he figures out a new, now I have laser vision. And this is your Aruda. This is a power that you have that is like a superpower, because it's what people notice about you, and it's what people want from you. And so getting to know this is important. And again, it's not you. Just like the guy who finds a super suit. Tony Stark, without his suit, he's just a smart guy with a lot of money. He's really not all that special. Maybe he's trained and but in order for him to really have his superpower, he's got to put on his Iron Man suit. Otherwise, he doesn't have any powers, right? So this is your Aruda. You don't feel it. You just feel like you're going through life because your life is based upon your ascendant. For me, my ascendant is Leo. So as a Leo, I have to look at my life and interact with my life, and those are my karmas and my challenges and all of the things that go on in my life. I'm seeing it through the vantage point of Leo, and moon in Leo. That's how I see everything. But when I walk into the room, that's not what you guys see. What you guys see is my superpower, which is Mars in Swati in the third house in Libra. Okay? So we're going to walk through the different signs. So as I said, you to figure out what your Arudha is, you know what the house is that it sits in. That'll tell you the function. For instance, third house, among other things, is communication and writing. I've done both of those things. I write books and I communicate. And then you want to know what the sign is, because that's the flavor. That's the color. So think of it as a colored spotlight. So Libra has its own color that it puts onto that house. So if you're Leo, your third house is Libra. So Libra is shining onto that house, giving its influence. Okay? And then of course there is the planet that lords the sign. And again, Libra, the planet that lords Libra is Venus. So you want to see where Venus is in your chart and all that stuff. And then you want to know what the planet is. So you see the different layers. You've got the house, you've got the sign, you've got the planet or planets, and then you've got the nakshatras underneath the planets. So for this video, we're just going to talk about what happens when you have an Arudha in certain signs. And we're not going to bring in planets or anything else, because then it starts getting really complicated. All right, so again, your Arudha will only fall into the third house, fourth, fifth, seventh, ninth, 10th, and 11th. It won't fall in any other house. So we talked about that in the previous video, the function of the houses. All right, so let's start with the first sign. So let's say that your Arudha is in the sign of Aries. So that means, again, depending on which house your Aries is, that's going to be the spotlight of the warrior, because Aries is the sign of Mars, outward Mars action, fire. It is the sign of the warrior. If you have Mars in Aries, especially in the third house or the sixth house, you've got a warrior, especially in the third house. Mars and Aries in the third house, or even in the first house. I believe Bruce Lee had Mars in Aries in the first house, if I remember correctly. And so he was a martial artist. That's what he was known for. That's who he was. So he was that. So Mars, the Aries sign is the passion of the warrior. It's about action. Get out there and get things done. So wherever it is, whatever house it's in, whatever function that house is doing, it means that people see you as a person of action. Okay, so again, depending on each of the houses and the planets and all that. Second sign, let's look at Taurus. So let's say your Arudha is Taurus. Taurus is the earth sign of Venus, and Taurus is very much about the earth. It's about stuff. Venus likes things. Venus likes money, possessions, conveniences. So Taurus is very much about that, the earth manifestation. This is really the sign of the earth mother. So Taurus, if your Arudha is in Taurus, then people are going to see you as somebody who has access to or has control over or is very lucky when it comes to stuff. Money, houses, cars, jewels, other things, food, sensual pleasures, physical pleasures. So the earth mother aspect, whether you're a male or a female, may not be an earth mother, but you see what I mean? So if your Arudha lands in Taurus, those are some of the things that you can expect. Again, depending on what house it is and what planets are in there. And then, of course, we have to look at the planetary aspects. So we want to look at what aspects, your Arudha is. If there's a planet in there, where is that? Where are the signs that planet is lording over? You have to take all of these things into consideration. Again, if you want to look at your Arudha, go to astrology.thunderwizard.com, and either myself or one of my apprentices can help you with that. All right, what if your Arudha lands in Gemini? Gemini is the outward expression of Mercury. Mercury is the intellect. And so Gemini is the sign for the professor, for the teacher, for the orator, for the poet, the communicator. Now the sign for Gemini, interestingly enough, people kind of forget this, but Gemini is actually a more romantic and sexual sign than even even Leo or what's the one that most people, Scorpio. Gemini is really about relationships because the twins are not like two twins, they're actually the lovers. They are the embodiment of yin and yang. So Gemini is taking together the masculine and the feminine. So depending on how Gemini is in your chart, if it's really strong and if it's under the right conditions, it can mean that you are all about relationship, and it can mean a very the sexual relationship becomes a real bonding. So if you have a Gemini in your Arudha, people may see you as a communicator, as somebody who is a cooperative relationship partner. They may see you as somebody who is intellectually smart, communicative. They may see you as an expert or as a scholar, but somebody who radiates externally this power of Mercury, the external expression of Mercury. Okay, so that's if your Arudha is in Gemini. If your Arudha is in Cancer, this is the sign of the moon. And so Cancer is everything having to do with what we now consider connected to the moon, the mother, nurturing, the waters of healing, deep emotions, intuitive connections, meditative, emotional, because it's the moon and it's that we see the crab in Cancer as being, they kind of take people hostage. They got those claws. They grab onto people, and they tend to also the overprotective mother. If your Cancer is debilitated, it can show you either have an overprotective mother or that you are an overprotective mother type of person. So if your Arudha lands there, then there's going to be this aspect of the moon and the sign of Cancer, which is emotions, healing, connection, bringing of things together, maternal, nurturing, healing, psychic, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so that's if your Arudha lands in Cancer. If your Arudha lands in Leo, which is not my Arudha, but my ascendant, if your Arudha lands in Leo, then they see you as the king or the queen, because that's the sign of Leo. The Leo is powered by the sun, and the sun is the king, and it's the soul. And it's a fiery expression. The natural placement of Leo is the fifth house. The fifth house is the house of performance, of actors, musicians, poets, dancers, artists. Any kind of performance art is there, but it's also the sign of romance. It's the sign of not marriage, but it's the sign of sex. So, when you meet somebody and you go on that third date, that's the fifth house coming in. The sexual pleasures there. So it's that sign. So if your Arudha lands in the sign of Leo, they see you as this dynamic, expressive, confident king or queen. And so you may be totally different. I mean, your let's say your ascendant and your moon and even your sun is, let's say your moon and your sun are in your ascendant in Cancer. So you're going to be a very touchy-feely, emotional person, but they're not going to see you that way. If your Arudha is Leo, they're going to see you as the bright, shining sun, the king or the queen. This is why it's so important to know your Arudha. If you don't know your Arudha and you walk around wanting people to accept you for who you are and see you for how you see yourself, and if your Arudha is totally different, people are going to go, God, you bug me. Why can't you be the way I see you to be? So stop trying to tell people how to see you. They're going to see you however they see you. And if you allow yourself to be your Arudha, if you allow yourself to express that, to let that really shine from you, people are happy around you. This is important to know. So let's say your Arudha is, a negative Arudha, right? Let's say it's Rahu in Scorpio. That would be, Rahu is the thief, Rahu is associated with crime, with con men, because he's the deceiver. So in Scorpio is dark and Mars, so they're going to see you as this murderer, assassin, dark, black magician. But if you don't own that, and if you don't present yourself that way, Rahu and Scorpio, you want to dress up like a goth and look mysterious, and people are going to go, aha, look at you, you're devious, aren't you? If you say, no, I'm not devious, they're going to go, they're not going to believe you. But if you say, yeah, I'm a con man, I know all the cons, you want me to list all the cons, let me do some card tricks for you, then they're going to love you. You have to let them have their experience of you, because they'll like it. Now, somebody else who doesn't have that Arudha, if they try and present themselves as a con man or a cheat or a criminal, then people dislike that person. But if you have this Arudha and you try and present yourself as, let's say you have, again, sun and moon in Cancer in your ascendant, you try and present yourself as this really healing, soulful person, then they're going to go, man, don't BS me. They want to see you as your Arudha. It's very important you understand that. It's not about you, it's about them. All right, so what if your Arudha is in, let's see, what if your Arudha is in Virgo? Okay, Virgo is the internal aspect of Mercury. This is the sign of the scholar in the library. So the scholar in the library, and this is somebody who is, if you are a Virgo, or if Virgo is very powerful in your chart, then you do have a very strong critical mind. Virgo is very exacting and wants to get the exact. No, this is right, that is wrong, and get very exacting. So if you have your Arudha is Virgo, then people are going to see you as somebody who is a scholar and who has a sharp mind and a sharp wit. And if you go and you go to a wine tasting, they're going to ask you, tell me what you think. Is this a good wine or not? And you're going to taste it, and you're going to go, it's got a essence of a smokiness. It's not quite ready yet. It needs to age for another 10 years. Whereas to the rest of us, it just tastes like fermented grape juice. We could care less. So this is Virgo. They will see you as a deep intellectual thinker, and that you know a lot of things, and you've got a lot of book knowledge, and you're smart, and Virgos can also be really critical in a negative way. So if this is your Arudha, then people actually want to hear your critiques. And you may feel like, I don't want to be a pain in the ass critic all the time, but this is what people want from you. So as long as you own it and you use it consciously, this is where you're going to get your money. So how you use the Arudha is, whatever it is that you're doing for a living, you want to allow yourself to be seen as your Arudha, right? So if you are working, let me try and think of something. You're working in an office somewhere, but your Arudha is one of the lover, or if your Arudha is one of the athlete, the warrior, then you need to express yourself, right? In that way within whatever it is you do for a living, and that's how you're going to be successful. My experience with the Arudha is this. There are all kinds of ways to find out what your career is supposed to be. There's all kinds of different ways. But for me, the first thing that I'm going to look for is I'm going to look at their Arudha, especially if they have planets in their Arudha. If you have planets in your Arudha and you go underneath and you know the house, the sign, and the nakshatra is underneath the planet or the planets, it will tell you exactly what you're supposed to do for a living. That's been my experience. My Arudha is the perfect example. You know, I started doing this, what I'm doing, with my and decided to make YouTube, my YouTube channel, the main funnel through which I created my business and my career. And I tried all different things. If you go in the past and you look at my earlier videos, you see me trying different things. I tried doing fancy editing. I tried, you know, sticking with the formula that they told me to do. And nothing really happened with my channel. My channel took off when I started doing these live question and answer videos. And what would happen is people would ask me questions and then I would just go off. And I would either get really deep on a subject or I would go off on them. You know, that just seems to be what happens. Now, I don't personally like it when that happens. It's embarrassing to me. I can't really control myself. I get into it and I can like laser beam into somebody and I slice them to pieces or reveal them to themselves or try and, you know, slap them awake with, you know, I really don't like that afterwards. You know, but that's my ego. I don't want to be seen as a mean person. But if you look at my Arudha, Mars in the third house, in Libra, communication. The third house is communication and writing, but it's different than the fifth house. The fifth house is writing the opus magnus, you know, writing Sense and Sensibility, you know, writing the Lord of the Rings trilogy, somebody who writes one big giant book and that, you know, defines them for the rest of their life. The third house is reality TV show. Every week you come on and there's some drama that you talk about every day. You're coming on and you're talking about blogs or YouTube vlogs or something. So that's where my success came from. My Arudha says that because Mars is on the second pada of Swati. Swati is ruled by Rahu, and it's the wind, it's communication, it's you know, doing something different. And so this is what I do. I come on to YouTube multiple times during the week and I do these live question and answers, and it's every week it's something new, and that's what people want. I may like that or not like that, but that's what people want. And that's what my Arudha is. The more exact I get to my Arudha and I try and do exactly what my Arudha is, the more money I make. So I do believe that your Arudha can tell you what your ultimate career will be. All right, so what's the next sign? So if your Arudha is in Libra, we already talked about that. That's Venus, balance, exchange of energy, equal exchange of energy, peace. So the peaceful warrior, you know, that's me, the warrior of balance, the protector as opposed to the fighter and the killer, the protector, right? This is Mars and Libra. So Libra, if you have Libra, forget about Mars for a second, then one of the main things is going to be that of balance. They're going to see you as a balanced person. They're going to see you as a friendly person. You know, one of the things that used to bug me is that homeless people would always come up to me. Anybody's lost, they always come up to me. You know, I may be in a horrible mood and think that I'm, you know, giving off this leave me alone. And the little kid will come up to me and ask me, where's my mommy? Or the homeless guy will ask for help, or the person will ask me for directions. I can't help it. That's my Arudha. I can't help that. So you're going to be seen as somebody who's helpful, somebody who they can trust. They'll be able to get a good deal from you if you're a businessman or a businesswoman or a merchant. You might be a counselor, you might be a healer, somebody that brings balance. So this is what your Arudha will be if it's in Libra. If it's in Scorpio, Scorpio is the deep waters of Mars. Scorpio has a stinger, so Scorpio goes deep, deep, deep. It's the natural placement of the 8th house, which is the unconscious mind. So this is somebody who, when they see you, if your Arudha is Scorpio, they see you as dark, they see you as deep, as mysterious. Perhaps you're magical, but you have this power that they can't quite see. They don't really know what you're all about. What is this guy thinking? He's plotting and thinking. He can see into me. You know, they fall in love with you. They possess you. They go deep into your soul. So if they see you that way, they're gonna know that a relationship with you means you're gonna go deep into them. You're gonna see deeply into them. You're somebody who goes deep into life, into spirituality. sexually very, seething with that deep, intense sexuality. That's how they're going to see you, even if that's not who you are. Even if your ascendant is totally different, they're going to see you that way. So you need to present yourself that way. And perhaps you're like, maybe you're confused because people see you, you're so deep and intense, and you're like, what are you talking about? You can't help it. That's how they see you. This is a power that you have that came from a previous lives. It's a power that you've gained. You're completely clueless to it most of the time. All right, what if your Arudha lands in the sign of Sagittarius? Then they're going to see you as the priest, because this is the outward fire expression of Jupiter, and this is the priest. This is the natural home of the ninth house, which is the temple, the house of Dharma, the house of true spirituality, your true path. So they're going to see you as a teacher, a priest or a priestess, a healer, a counselor, a teacher. The Gemini teacher is the scholar on the podium in the university who's telling you the history of such and putting into words, having to put knowledge into words. The ninth house is knowledge that goes beyond words. So that's why the priest doesn't stand up and preach. That's what modern religion does. We have a bunch of preachers, which is Gemini. Preachers are Gemini. They're not spirituality. Spirituality is, I have this deep, deep knowledge that goes beyond words. I can't give you the words, but what I will do is I will do this ritual. And the power of the ritual will reach into you, and you'll feel the power. Maybe you won't understand it, but you'll feel it. This is the ninth sign, Sagittarius. If you have Sagittarius as your Arudha, people see you as a priest or a priestess, a teacher, counselor, healer. All right, what if your Arudha is in Capricorn? Capricorn is the sign of Saturn, which has to do with work. If you have Capricorn as your Arudha, whatever other things are going on, planets, aspects, they're going to see you as somebody who works hard. Capricorn is the natural placement in the 10th house, which is your career. It's work. It's your work, what you do for work. And so Capricorn is, if you have to build a bridge, Capricorn says, all right, give me 300 years and I'm going to go quarry the stones, and then I'm going to carve the stones, and then I'm going to fit them together, and then I'm going to get the foundation. It's going to take me about 300 years. But once that bridge is built, it's going to last for 1 billion years, and you can drive, a 10-ton truck over it. And that's the kind of work ethic that Capricorn has. So they're going to see you as somebody stable. They're going to see you as somebody serious. They're going to see you as potentially somebody with authority, because Saturn is the judge. So they'll put you in charge to make sure that the work gets done, and you're going to follow the rules. You don't break any rules. You follow all of the rules, and you're very serious about what you do. And you're also dependable. It's like if you're Capricorn Arudha, they're going to say, yeah, let's get him to help us move. We can depend on him. Let's put him in charge of this, whatever it is. It's also, there's some criticism there, but it's criticism. Perfectionism is a better word to look at. Capricorn is perfectionism. Practical perfectionism. Virgo is heady perfectionism, where, like people who want to argue with me on YouTube comments about nonsense, that's Gemini wanting to argue intellectual, airy-fairy nonsense. And that's when I say stop smoking pot, get out of your head. Capricorn is very critical, but it's practical critical stuff like, well, that's astrology stuff is great, but what the hell can I do with it? How does that make my life better? Very practical sign. And it's also a very successful sign. So they'll see you as somebody hardworking, dependable, successful, and did I say perfectionist already? All right, what if your Arudha lands in Aquarius? So Aquarius is also Saturn, but it's the Saturn after Saturn has done all the work, has paid off all the karmic debts, because Aquarius happens to be where you feed all the workers, basically. Everybody's worked their ass off, now it's lunchtime, and everybody gets fed, and everybody gets their due. So the age of Aquarius this is why we're going through this period of destroying the elites, whatever it is. This is why, whatever you think of Donald Trump, this is why he is president. You know, the most powerful country in the world now has somebody who is literally setting off bombs all through the government. He's destroying the rule of government. You may like that, you may don't like that, but that is what's happening because he represents our unconscious need to destroy class structure and power and authority. And Aquarius is the sign of bartering. People want to barter now. They want to set up communities where there's no money and there's just bartering, where the plumber over here does his job and the baker does his job, and you know, the healer and then the priest. And so if you want something and you're the plumber, in exchange for your plumbing, you can get a cow or a pig for somebody, or somebody will make some clothes for you. There's no money, it's just a trade, an exchange of bartering. And this is really what Aquarius is all about, where you are your own person, you're your own guru, you're your own teacher, you're your own ruler, but at the same time, you are cooperatively engaged in the community with other people. This is Aquarius. So this is how people will see you. If your Arudha is Aquarius, they're going to see you as a cooperative person who helps bring equality to the masses in whatever it is you do. Whatever it is you do for a living, if your Arudha is Aquarius, that's how they're going to see you. That you're going to be able to make sure that everybody gets their due. All right, what if your Arudha is Pisces, the 12th sign? So Pisces is the internal, the water aspect of Jupiter. So this is not Jupiter the priest. Jupiter the priest is expressive in the temple, doing the mantras, doing the ritual, doing the healing, doing the teaching of be a good person and let me help you work through your issues, the kind priest. This is the priest who is now gone. He's now retired. He doesn't do the ceremonies for the village. He's now gone off into his hut and he is meditating and he goes into a deep trance and he's getting ready to leave this world. Or she is getting ready to leave this world. It's the internal aspect. It's the spiritual aspect of Jupiter that is the portal to the other realms of existence, to the next life, to the afterlife, to dreams. So if your Arudha is Pisces, they're going to see you as a deeply spiritual person, maybe mysterious, maybe they see you as psychic, but they see you as somebody who connects to the other realm, to the other realm of existence, to the other side. Okay? So those are the 12 signs, and this, if your Arudha aligns in the 12th sign. If you don't know what your Arudha is, go to astrology.thunderwizard.com and get a reading from either me or from one of my apprentices, because that's what we do. You know, there are specific readings that we do. We do a bunch of different things, which, as I said, the majority of astrologers don't give you. And it's, you know, these are things that, if you know these things, it doesn't matter what's happening. It doesn't matter what planetary transition or even what planetary time period you're in, which is very important. You don't have to know that. If you know that your Arudha is this, if in doubt, just be your Arudha wherever you are, and the people and the universe will throw money and success at you. This is my experience. And you will feel fulfilled. You'll feel like you're doing your job, and you'll start to get a lot of, in the beginning you may go through some self-doubt because you may not be used to your Arudha. It's like, you know, Tony Stark, I don't know, whomever, let's imagine he finds his suit and he's not quite used to it yet. It may take you time to get used to your superpower suit, but once you get used to it, then you know that's where you go. When you're insecure or things aren't going well, you can put on your super suit and boom, you're going to feel very empowered. And you're going to be able to get things done in your life, okay? But if you don't know what it is, go to astrology.thunderwizard.com, and that's one of the main things that we focus on in our readings. All right, so also again, if you want to learn this style of Vedic astrology that I teach, you can go to 241.thunderwizard.com, where I am now giving away astrology certification and rune reading certification, both of them for the price of one. So it's a 2-for-1, only for the month of May, 2for1.thunderwizard.com. All right, let's take a look and see if there are any questions. I'll be surprised if there are. How many people do we have on channel? We got 21 people on. All right, so let's see. Not a whole lot, but here's a question. Chris Arcianega question. What if your birth time is potentially wrong because you came out with complications? That would mess the cogna and the, I don't know, that would mess uo the cogna and therefore the Arudha, right? All right, so short answer is yes. If, you know, you want to have the exact time, because especially if you want to get specific and you have a planet in there, in your Arudha, then you wanted the exact time, because that's going to tell you which exact pada of the nakshatra your planet in your Arudha is sitting in. So yeah, I mean, that's obvious. If you don't have the right time, then there's a possibility that you're going to be slightly off. But there is a thing called birth rectification. It's not a service that I provide, but you can go online and find a Vedic astrologer who will provide the service of birth rectification. And I believe what they do is, you know, you give them the time as best as you know it. And then what they'll do is they will ask you a bunch of questions. And from those questions, they can narrow down right to the second. You know, I had my birth time rectified a little bit. I was almost exact, and then I was working with my astrologer, and he asked me one question about, do you like to work for other people or do you like to work for yourself? And I said, I definitely have to work for myself. And he said, so it's 14 seconds instead of, or, you know, whatever it is, 14 minutes as opposed to 16 minutes. So you can find somebody to give you that information if you need to. Avery W., please write the word question so I know you're asking a question. What would Arudha Cancer in the 5th house be? I'm assuming, again, I don't know, are we talking Western? Because please don't come to me with your Western chart, okay? If this is a Western chart, I can't help you. If it's a Vedic chart, assuming it's a Vedic chart, and again, I need to look at the whole chart. I need to see the planetary aspects. I need to see the sign aspects. In this case, Cancer, I need to see the strength of the moon. Where is the moon placed? What's happening with the moon? I need to see all of those things, okay? And you didn't tell me if there's any planet in there. So if there's a planet in there, that changes everything too. But if your Arudha is Cancer in the 5th house, then you are seen as somebody who is potentially a scholar, you know, a performer perhaps. You might be a musician or a performer, an actor. You may be a scholar of ancient knowledge and wisdom. Cancer brings the moon, so that's going to bring the meditative mind. So the first thing that they see is they see you as somebody who has Cancer, which is this healing. Okay, Avery W., no planets. All right, so they're going to see you as somebody who's who brings the healing aspect of the moon, the nurturing aspect of the moon, the psychic, the spiritual, the intuitive. It's probably the best word. They see you as an intuitive person who probably has knowledge in deep spiritual things, but they may see you in the other things associated with your 5th house in Cancer, okay? So again, just to know more of it, I'd have to look at your whole chart, but those are some of the things. My suggestion to you is to go online and research Cancer ascendant in Vedic astrology. Because when you walk in the room, they think you're a Cancer, right? So you're actually a Pisces, right? Pisces, Aries, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, so you're a Pisces. So there's a lot of similarity. Your Arudha and your ascendant have a lot of similarities. So there may not be a big change or overlap there. But that's how they see you. They see the moon aspect of it. All right, what else we got here? Ghost in the Machine question. How do you perceive the weird and the norns in Vedic astrology? It's kind of a strange question. I mean, why would you ask that? That's kind of like saying, how do you perceive physics in, in English literature? I mean, English literature is its own thing. So why would you ask an English lit professor, tell me how English lit majors see physics? Physics is its own thing. Vedic astrology is its own thing. So you're asking me to weird is its own thing as well. And it doesn't mean a Vedic astrologer won't be really into what weird means and what norns mean. But, Ghost in the Machine, that's a really, again, this is where I come in and say, you're overthinking stuff. This is kind of shit people smoke weed and it's too much thinking. Let weird be itself. Let it be its own thing. If you want to ask me, what is the Vedic astrological understanding in terms of, destiny and all that kind of stuff, then we can talk about Dharma. The Norns are the giantesses, so you're not going to have a direct correlation into Vedic astrology. Their mythology, they don't have that. That's a Norse thing. So again, it annoys me because you're thinking too much, and just let weird be its own thing and let Vedic astrology be its own thing. Sorry, that's the best I can do with that. The modern mystic question: what's the characteristic of Rahu's Arudha? Well, it depends on what house he's in. It depends on what sign he's in. And it depends on what's aspecting him. It depends on what nakshatra he's sitting on top of. It's a huge question. So all you have to do to really answer the general question you've asked me, what are the characteristics of Rahu's Arudha, is what is Rahu? So if your Arudha is Rahu, then people are going to see that. And again, if he's conjunct the moon or Jupiter, it's going to be totally different. If he's by himself, then he's going to be by himself in somebody's house. If he's by himself in his own house, like let's say if he's by himself in Gemini, then he's going to be the best of himself. Like that's him at his best. So you find out there's positive and negatives of every planet, especially Rahu. Rahu's negative is that he is a thief, he's a deceiver, he cuts corners, he breaks rules, he's representative of the sex trade, of pornography, of infidelity, of selfishness, of, that's his lower vibration. His higher vibration is that he is an inventor, and he is he's an iconoclast. He's ahead of his time. He is, all the things that we have in our life now, which is the result of Kali Yuga, which we've just come out of, is the internet, cell phones, everything, electricity in your homes, cars, because these are all, shortcuts. 100 years ago, 150 years ago, you had to write a letter and send it on horseback. If you wanted to get across the country, you had to get in a wagon and be pulled by horses, and it might take weeks. Or you had to get in a boat and go by boat, which would take months. Whereas now you can get in a plane. That's Rahu. Get in a plane and in hours you're there. That's Rahu. So you have to find out, how is Rahu in your chart? Is he another planet? Is he happy? All that stuff. So that's a question for you. You got to either get a reading with somebody who can look at all that stuff, astrology.thunderwizard.com, or you got to do your own research. Modern mystic, why are you throwing planets at me? I didn't ask you a question, did I? What's the characteristic of Rahu's Arudha? And then you run Moon, Venus, Sun, Mercury. So here's the thing, guys. If you're going to ask a question, again, please put the time and effort into writing an entire sentence with a context. Don't assume that I'm in your, that moment that you threw those out, like I'm not. Assume that I don't know what the hell you're talking about. But it also, look, this is maybe an old fart thing of mine, but you know, one of the main things that bothers me about society in general is that people don't pay attention and they don't put effort into things. 99% of all of our problems would be solved if people paid attention and put effort. Paid attention and put effort into it. If you want my advice, put some time and effort into writing a full sentence in context so I know what the hell you're talking about. Ray Teach. So you're asking me, again, you guys are getting some free readings here, but you're asking me. Arudha, Leo, 11th house, no planet. You're the king who, 11th house is networking, it's also success. So you're the successful king who's a networker. I would need to know more to be able to get it down even further, but first thing that happens is people see you as a networker and they see you as the leader, a king who networks. Ghost in the Machine, clarification in context of the Indo-European connection. Yeah, he had too much thinking, man. Again, this is all intellectual stuff, Ghost in the Machine. In context of the Indo-European connection, the Indo-European connection is inherent in that. So there are some connections we can make, direct connections. Indra and Thunar, we can make direct connections with that because Indra is Inthura, the king of the full moon. Thunar, Thu, there's the connection there. Nar is Lord or first cause. Thunar is the Lord of the moon. Indra is the king of the full moon. Thunar is Lord of the moon. It's the same word. The Indo-European connection is very clear. Okay, but when you start separating by thousands and thousands of years, what is the connection between the Norns and the, obviously I didn't respond well enough to that because I'm not sure that there is a connection that way. The teaching behind the Norns is going to be expressed in Vedic mythology, but in a different way. I could be wrong, unless somebody can come up and tell me the three giantesses of the Vedic tradition who are involved in past, present, and future. This may not have been something that came out, which is why understanding both traditions, brings a fullness to the Indo-European connection. But again, my feeling is you're thinking too hard. It feels like you've been smoking weed and you're trying to make connections. I had an apprentice who was wanting to do some stuff on with runes, and he went and I think he ate mushrooms or something, and he came back to me with all this stuff, with all these numbers and these connections, and I went, so what do I do with that? And he goes, I don't know. It sounds really deep, but you can't do anything with it. And it reminds me of that. It feels that way to me. So it's okay to ask the question. My apologies. I'm just being my Arudha right now, which is Mars in the third house, which is, whatever. So Evan LS, question. I have the same sign as Hitler. Okay, so what? It's not just the sign. It's the house that the sign is in. It's the planet that lords over the sign. How strong is that in the chart? It's what planets are in that sign. It's what aspects are in that sign. It's all of those things. You can't just go by one thing. You think you're the only person that has the same sign as Hitler? That doesn't mean anything. Okay? I have the same sign as Hitler, Aries. I feel I have to fight for the European race and pagan heritage. Oh my God. Are you new to my channel? Do you not know my thoughts about that crap? I mean, the fury that's rising in me right now is I'm embarrassed for you. It saddens me. I mean that. It saddens me that you think that this is a normal way to be, that this is an okay way to be. Your racism has nothing to do with the fact that you're an Aries. I strongly, strongly advise you to watch my channel. I've got videos on racism. Go watch my channel about racism. My videos about racism. And ask yourself if you belong here on this channel. Just because I teach my ethnic background stuff doesn't mean that you and I have anything in common. If you're confessing to me that it bothers you that you feel this way, then I want to help you. But if you're coming onto my channel because you want me to co-sign that crap, it's going to take everything in me not to slap the crap out of you. I just have no tolerance for it. It comes down to this, my friend. I'm going to assume you're asking for my help because you don't like this, because you say, I think World War II was an age of Aquarius too. It wasn't. We're not in age of Aquarius yet. Seems crazy. Let me just ask you a question. Who the hell do you have to defend yourself against? Who is threatening your pagan race? Who's threatening you? I mean, right now, this second, who is preventing you from being a pagan? Who's preventing you from wanting to learn the ways of your European ancestors? Nobody. There's nobody out there. This is all your insecurity. If you have feelings of racism, if you're confessing to me that you have feelings of racism and you think that there might be something wrong with it, then with all of the compassion I can muster, I'm saying to you, this is your self-hatred. This is your insecurity. You hate yourself. You're insecure with yourself, and you're looking for the easiest thing to blame it on. And the easiest thing to blame it on is something that you don't understand. Somebody has a completely different ethnic background. You don't relate because you're insecure. Now, if you're a secure person, it doesn't matter. You look at somebody and you look at what you do relate to. You connect to them on that connection. Let me tell you something. Our Norse ancestors weren't racist by a long shot. If they were, they wouldn't have intermarried everywhere that they went. They intermarried and they converted to whatever religion or whatever culture was wherever they set up their kingdom. Everywhere they went. That means that the ones that went to Arabia became Muslim. I wouldn't do that, but that's what that means. The ones who went to Christian nations eventually became Christian. I mean, there were Norse Christian. The Normans were strongly Christian. They were Normans. They weren't French. So it pains me. It saddens me very deeply that people can be that emotionally traumatized, that psychologically traumatized, to have these feelings. It makes me very sad for you, and that's bad because I'm pitying you. Do you want to be pitied? I pity you for feeling that way. So it has nothing to do with being Aries, okay? So please, I mean, I don't want to spend any more time on it because there are plenty of people here who don't think that way. But, you know, if you're asking for my help, I'm going to say you might want to seek counseling and find out why you're so insecure. Where did you learn this shit from? And get educated. I'll end with this story. There was a young man who was being groomed to be I don't know what they call that, the grand wizard, dragon wizard of the KKK. This is very recently. And he had been trained and taught as a kid, as a child, he was going to be the next one. And so they taught him everything that the KKK teaches people, and then they sent him off to college. Big mistake. Because number one, he got educated, and number two, he spent time with people his own age who were black and Jewish and everything, and he came out of that. Now he's an activist for racial equality because he got fucking educated. I'll tell you one other story, and I'll shut up with this. A friend of mine told me the story. He's got relatives in Florida. And so they were all going to meet in Miami Beach, I believe it was, at some restaurant And so they were coming from, Los Angeles and wherever. And if you live in Los Angeles, you're around multi-ethnic, multicultural all the time. So, you're used to it. It doesn't bother you. Just because somebody is of another color, just because a brown or a black person walks next to you, you don't get scared. It's just part of the deal. But the people that lived in Florida, who lived in rural Florida, who never left, they never left their little neighborhood in the middle of the, Florida outback or whatever it was. They came to have this family reunion. And so everybody's in this restaurant in Miami Beach, and they're sitting there waiting, where's so-and-so and so-and-so? And 15 minutes goes by and they haven't showed up. And a half an hour goes by and they haven't showed up. And 45 minutes goes by and they haven't showed up. So somebody calls them and say, hey, where are you guys? And they said, we're in the parking lot. So what are you doing in the parking lot? I said, we're afraid to get out of the car. Why? Well, because there's all these black people and all these Hispanic people walking around and we don't want to get mugged. I have found that the people who are racist for the most part are people who aren't educated, they haven't gone to college, they don't know, they don't understand the world around them, they don't know the difference between, all the different everything, cultures in the world, they don't understand different religions. These are people who have never been exposed to other cultures and religions, and all they know is that it's different and it frightens them. That's all they know. So when I read this, that's to Evan, that's where my first thoughts go. I think to myself, how can this person be so uneducated? How sad for them that they don't have enough experience of the world to know how stupid and ridiculous that thinking is. It makes me sad because it makes me wonder what kind of home you grew up with, that the people around you made you feel so crappy about yourself, or they felt so crappy about themselves that you can't even tolerate the thought of other people and you have to fight for your own race. How fucking ridiculous. It saddens me, my friend. So I'm sorry if I came on too strong. I don't know what your intention was, but that's the kindest way that I can address that. Chris Arcienega, question. How do Sun and Arudha Lagna differ? What do you mean? Please, again, man, put time into writing whole sentences. How does the planet Sun differ from the Arudha Lagna? Or how does the Sun sign differ from the Arudha Lagna? Because I thought Sun was how people saw you. Well, it sounds like you're talking about Western astrology and you got it backwards. Western astrology has it right. They will say the sun sign is your internal experience and your rising sign is the external experience. So, I mean, you just got it wrong. They don't. They're two completely different things. Your sun sign is your identity, your internal soul experience of yourself. The Arudha Lagna is the reflection of your rising sign, not your sun. The Arudha Lagna is the reflection of your rising sign, which is your true personality. Chris Arcienega, question, not Vedic. So don't waste my time. I mean, I'm not a Western astrologer, and Western astrology is 24 degrees off and does everything different. So please, I said that in the beginning, don't waste my time with Western, and don't waste your time. If you want to understand the Arudha Lagna, then you're going to have to get a Vedic reading or study up to find out what it is. Okay? Don't waste your time. Yeah, Chris Arcienega, I get the feeling you're a young guy, right? You're in your teens. Why don't energy cultivators compete in the UFC and use chi? Would it be just too killer? Nope. It wouldn't work. People who have martial energy powers, I know because I trained with them, that is a completely different vibe. And once you get that, the thought of going into a ring, in a closed ring, with rules, it's silly. The stereotype of the old man in China, who's walking around with a cane until somebody tries to mug him, and then, the mugger goes flying across and gets his ass kicked, and then the guy starts walking around with a cane. That's accurate, because when you get that kind of power, it's a spiritual connection that gives you that kind of power. And the kind of ego that goes into going into the UFC, you can't have that kind of ego and gain that kind of power. I know from personal experience, you can't do it. The mindset involved in going into a ring in a prize fight is, it chokes off the connection to energy and it won't work. Most people who train in energy martial arts at some point will either themselves or they will be forced to take a vow of nonviolence. I took a vow. Under no circumstances will I ever use my martial knowledge on another human being. I first made the vow that I would never use my knowledge on another human being unless myself or somebody near me was in danger of being harmed. And then I thought about that and I said, hang on, I'm not even going to manifest that. So my vow was, I will never be in a situation where I will have to use it, and I never will, unless I'm teaching. Unless I'm teaching somebody, then I will let the energy out just to show them, and then to, sparring and all that kind of stuff, that's okay. Outside of that, I'll never use it. And I will deny that I have it. The master that I trained under totally denies that he has these powers, unless you're his student. Or unless you're stupid enough to try and rob him, in which case you will find out very quickly what his powers are. So the short answer is that the UFC, and let me just tell it, let me just demystify the UFC. There are people in forget about energy martial arts. There are boxers and other types of martial artists who aren't allowed in the UFC because they're too dangerous. The UFC has given this myth that mixed martial arts is the best martial arts in the world. And it can't be defeated. Don't get me wrong, it's extremely practical, extremely effective. If you want to learn how to defend yourself, that's probably the quickest and best way to go train in MMA. But if you're in a bar and you've walked out the back door of the bar and you're in an alleyway that's covered with bricks and broken glass and feces and urine, and you get jumped by two people, the last thing that you're going to want to do is take somebody to the ground and try and choke them out. Because if you try and take somebody to the ground and your elbow goes up against the side of a car or on the brick or the cement, you're going to tear open your elbow. You might even break your elbow. While you're wrestling around on the ground and you've already smashed yourself up, his biker buddy with steel-toed boots is going to be kicking your head in while you're trying to choke him out. The MMA and the UFC has given this illusion to MMA that isn't real outside of the real world, because unless you've got a padded thing to fall on, it's just not that practical. It's great for competition. It's great for exactly what it is, prize fighting. It's great for that. But there's also another thing to look at. And I've joked around this because I have a friend of mine, very famous guy who goes around the world training people in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and UFC fighters, trains them in MMA. Very, very well-to-do, very, very lethal martial artist in his own right. But I joke around with him and I say, the martial art I'm going to teach is the one where all the rules that in the UFC, all the things you're not allowed to do, go practice that. Hammering people on the back of the neck with your elbow, fish hooking, biting, scratching, poking in the eye, kicking in the nuts. Though you're not allowed to do those things in the UFC. Why? Because you'll end the fight really quick. And that's not what it's there. It's there to watch two people bang on each other and wrestle around on the floor for a half an hour. That's where all the money is. It's not about taking your opponent out as quickly as possible. So, anyway, you pushed a button in me and I ranted, and there you go. Compsognathi question: is there any analogy between the concept of Jing in Chinese medicine and the Vedic tradition? Yes, it's called Ojas. O-J-A-S. Peter Moshi question: what are the Hindu deities equivalents for planet Venus, Moon, Sun, and Earth? There are multiple deities. Lakshmi is Venus, Indrani is Venus, Shukra, the planet Shukra is Venus, Hrishikesha or Parashurama, those are all Venus deities. Moon is Parvati, Indra is the lord of the moon, there's Soma, Sun is Rama, Aditya, Indra is also the sun. The earth is, who is the earth? Kuja is the earth deity. So you can figure these out. You don't need me to figure them out. You can type those in. Put a little bit of research into it. You can figure that one out yourself. Question, Peter Moshe again. Some writings in a cave called Ravne in Bosnia look like rune writings. Nobody seems to understand it. Well, if it's rune writings, somebody would understand it. It's obviously not runes. So I don't know what it would be. Cave has frequency of 9.6 hertz. The Earth has the frequency of 9.6 hertz. If you take two metal rods and just stick them in the Earth, and if you were to measure it, it would come out 9.6 hertz. So that's not unusual that the cave is 9.6 hertz because that is the frequency of the Earth. By the way, since we're on the subject, do I have it here? PMF, pulsed PEMF, pulsed electromagnetic. I don't have a link for it. PEMF, not K, F. Sorry, F dot thunderwizard.com. PEMF.thunderwizard.com is what I use. It is a pulsed electromagnetic field generator. It's the most powerful one you can get. If you go to that length, you can buy it and you can have it on for as long as you want. And I've used it for 6 years now, and it's yeah. So go there if you want to really 9.6 hertz in your house and create that field and sleep for 8 hours straight with a huge electromagnetic field of 8.6 hertz, which is far stronger than any magnet or anything else you're going to get. Go there if you want to learn that. Peter Moshe question, could you translate those runes and make a video about it? I just said I can't, because if it's runes, you said nobody knows what it is. So if it's runes, somebody would know. We would know what it is. Okay, so obviously I can't, because whatever it is, it's not runes. Because you said nobody knows what it is. Black Earth Productions. Let's see. Hello, Black Earth Productions. By the way, Black Earth Productions, if you've never heard about him, he's got his own channel. Very, very successful channel, very profound teaching on there. So you look that up, Black Earth Productions on YouTube. You can go to his website, blackearthproductions.com. And he himself is a very good astrologer and teacher. And so anyway, Sethicus Boza, welcome. Sethicus says, question, can you share a bit on the Arudha Lagna in Libra? Yeah, I did that earlier, but for you, my friend, I'm happy to do it again. Libra. Libra is the sign of balance. It is Venus, so Venus is a lover, not a fighter. Venus is about friendship. Venus wants to connect. When you have Libra, the sign of the balance scales is not justice. I'm sure you've heard that. A lot of people think it's justice. It's not justice. It is the merchant in the marketplace, when he is selling his wares, he makes sure that it's a balanced deal. They used to use that. You'd put the eggs on one side, and then you'd put however many little weights on the other side until it balances out, and then you know how much to charge for whatever you're selling. So it means fair exchange of balance. It's the Gebo rune. It's the fair exchange of balance. Everybody gets what they need. And Venus is the sign of, love and friendship and happiness. So it means somebody who brings balance. If this is a merchant, then he is a good deal. He's going to give a good product, and he's going to make good money doing it, and everybody's going to be happy. It's the sign of the shaman who brings balance. That's why I use the word shaman, not priest, because the shaman is somebody who brings balance to the elements and brings balance to the spiritual and the human world. It's somebody who is a mediator, somebody who is a counselor, somebody who brings balance. With me, I have Mars in there, so it turns me into a protector. So I do bring balance as well, but then Mars comes in and he's the protector. So it could be something else. So whatever other, aspects are on there, whether they're sign aspects or planetary aspects, that's gonna, and of course what house it's in. So if it's Libra in the fifth house, then it's gonna be, a scholar who brings balance. If it's Libra in the ninth house, then it's going to have the spiritual aspect, more of a priestly aspect to it. So again, that's my answer to your question. I hope that answers it for you. Cesar Casiano says, question, what do you think about life path numbers? I don't know anything about it. So my request is that people who come onto my channel, listen, you can ask whatever question you want. You're free to ask whatever question you want, but if I don't know the answer, I'm not going to share it. It's helpful to ask me about what I teach, because then I can share from my own knowledge. So anyway, short answer is I don't have the answer to your question because I don't know anything about it. Kamsognathi question, in Qigong, is there any significance to my joints and spine cracking in the morning and requiring time to stretch and release? Does that suggest any energetic practice is still insufficient? I'm hesitating because I did an energetic martial art, which is called a bunch of things, but I call it spirit fighting. And originally, you were supposed to have a meditative practice with it. So you would do the martial art, which itself was an extremely powerful form of Qigong, like the most powerful I know of in existence. And then you're supposed to meditate and bring the energy to your navel center and do some grounding exercises. Now, my teachers were nuts. And so they broke away from the Grand Master and they didn't do that part. And so what ended up happening is that you were lighting yourself up like a Roman candle torch with all of this energy, and then you weren't closing down. And so I'd go to sleep and I'd wake up the next day and I couldn't close my hands. And if I did, my hands, and I'd have to crack my back and my back would be stiff and sore, and then I'd breathe and all the energy would come back into my body and I'd get kind of woozy. And had I just simply been taught to ground myself and just meditate for 5 or 10 minutes and just breathe into my Dantian, I wouldn't have had that. So I'm hesitating to your answer, because if you're doing Qigong and you wake up in the morning and your joints are stiff and you have to crack them to get them moving, then if your experience is like mine, it means you're not grounding. So if you go to, let me get the right link up here. If you go to, apparently not that one. If you go to, hang on one second here. All right, whoops. No, let's get rid of this. Let's try again. If you go here, If you go here to courses.thunderwizard.com, you'll go there and you'll see a link to my Celestial Qigong. In that, I will teach you not only the most powerful Qigong that can be taught via video, but I'll also teach you how to ground the energy so that afterwards in the morning, instead of waking up stiff and having to crack your joints, you'll be actually very fluid and very comfortable and very rested. So you might not be grounding yourself. If you are grounding yourself, and assuming that you're doing your Qigong correctly, then it means that your meridians are blocked and that the energy is just trying to make its way through your meridians the same way like when you have a garden hose kinked up, the water isn't coming through, but once you unkink it, then the water flows. So it's one of those two things. I don't know enough about you to know which one it is, but my suggestion is you probably need to ground. And it's real simple to ground. Just put your right hand over your left and put your hand over your navel and just breathe long and deep. bringing the energy from your external parts into your navel center so that it can go into all of your body, and that should ground you. Do the Huul breath. That'll do it too. Huul breath. Go and type that into YouTube and do that. That will also ground you. That will probably heal any issues you've got as well. Peter Moshi, again, if you want to ask a question, please ask the word question and then write your question. Write out everything. Don't just throw something up, okay? I'm interested in 5 element. I don't know what that means. Ask a question and I'll help you. Peter Moshi says, question, my Arudha is Aquarius in the 11th house. Any suggestions as to what to wear or do to help be in line with my projection? Your Arudha is Aquarius in the 11th house. I need to know if there are any planets. So the 11th house is networking. The 11th house is gains, success, what you work for in this life and get gains. But it's networking, sales, success in general. Aquarius is where the masses rise up and become self-sufficient and interdependent. And so Aquarius is that. It's whatever you are, people see you as somebody who represents equality. Everybody's equality, and bringing everybody's independence and equality up. So and so they see you as a networker who can do that. Whatever planet is in there, whatever planetary aspects, and the strength of Saturn in your chart. If you have Aquarius and Saturn is not in the 11th house, then we need to know where Saturn is and the strength of Saturn and what house it's in. You need to know all of these things to know what to do. Generally speaking, whatever kind of hippie vibe that you relate to about equality and everybody coming together and networking, ask yourself, how would that person dress? And then dress that way, and then you will be successful. Cesar Cassiano, I don't know what you're asking me about. A previous thing? Okay, so I don't know. Anyway. Peter Moshi question, do you have any experience or knowledge worth sharing about wands of Horus? No. You will get a stronger response from me if you ask me about stuff that I teach. So that tells me you need to spend more time on my channel. Again, you can ask me anything you want. I have another place where I'm going to be doing live Q&As, and the questions are going to be very precise to what I teach, and I'll go very in depth in that. And that is, if you go to courses, or is this the one? neo.thunderwizard.com? Yeah, go to neo.thunderwizard.com. And the 4th tool of neo.thunderwizard.com is the private channel where I have private videos and I have private Q&As just for students of my stuff. Now, if you're not somebody that's been studying with me for a long time, that's okay, because you can go to those Q&As and like you're sitting in the front row of an advanced shamanism, Master Shamanism course with other master students. I haven't been doing the live Q&As the past couple of weeks, and that's because my internet streaming hasn't been so great, and I'm getting ready to move to Australia. So I do plan to do that soon. I'm going to have to start doing that again before I leave. But anyway, if you really want to get deep and be able to ask deep questions about what I teach and have me have back and forth where I ask you questions and you respond, and it's more of a tightly knit circle, then go to neo.thunderwizard.com or just go to thunderwizard.com and click on the Manifestation Mastery course. Okay, let's see what other questions we have. No more questions. Okay, that's it. All right, so I've been talking for about an hour and a half, so that's good. All right, so let's get some business done. I just gave a little spiel for the thunderwizard.com. I've talked about courses. So I'm going to talk about the special for this month, which is 2for1.thunderwizard.com. I am giving a half price certification for both my Vedic astrology certification and the rune certification. Normally you have to get those separately, and I am cutting the price in half. You'll get both of them for the same price. And so if you're not familiar with how it works, I'm not the only, certainly I'm not the only Vedic astrologer out there, but I teach a type of my Vedic astrological system, which is this. Vedic astrology is a huge science. I am barely scratching the surface. But what I have focused on are things that will practically help my life right now at any time in my life. You know, knowing what transit is happening here and what planetary time period is then, you know, those are really great things to know, but I want something that I can just always use. You know, like what's a multivitamin that I should be taking for the rest of my life? Something like that. The Arudha Lagna is one of those things. Other astrologers know about the Arudha Lagna. Some of them may not know them as deeply as I do, but they all know about it. But the average Vedic astrologer isn't going to tell you your Arudha Lagna because most people don't know about it and are interested in more superficial things. I teach it and I give it in every single one of my readings. I make it a focal point because it has revolutionized my life. The Arudha Lagna, if you know what your Arudha Lagna is and you know how to project your Arudha Lagna, you don't have to worry about what time period you're in, what transit you're going through, even what your sign is. You don't need to know any of that. Just be your Arudha Lagna and you will be successful. Okay, that's one of the things that I do. So I teach you how to do that, and then I will give you a page on my site, astrology.thunderwizard.com. Your face will be there. You'll have your own site, and people can click and buy a reading directly from you. The money goes straight to you. It doesn't come through me. It goes straight to you. And I only ask that people donate $25 for every reading that they get. If you get 10 readings, I'll never know about it. And as long as you can live with that karma, there you go. Then you'll get your own web page. I will give you your own page, which will be Joe Schmo, whatever your name is, .thunderwizard.com, and you can then have people, you can give people your business card. joeschmo.thunderwizard.com, you have your own web page there, which they can click on and get readings from you. If you have any other links that you do, I'll put those links on there so you can give, you know, that in itself is worth the price of the certification, to be honest with you. You'll have that for both astrology and runes. So you can have both opportunities if you want to start a business in either astrology or in rune readings. I offer that through here. Or you can just study and learn and then do your own thing. You don't have to go through me at all. So this month only, the month of May 2019, you get 2 for the price of 1, 241.thunderwizard.com. All right, looks like there's some more questions that came up. Kamso Gnathi question. I'm going to buy the Celestial Qigong video. Is it a daily practice? If you want it to be, yes. And I recommend that people do it on a daily basis. So that, again, is, you can go to courses.thunderwizard.com, right? Or here it is, qigong.thunderwizard.com. You can go there as well if you want to get the Celestial Qigong. Okay, what else? Peter Moshi question, when a guru is stating he is incarnation of Sadashiva, but is selling people third eye abilities like healing, blindfold reading, moving objects with will, is he fake? I don't know. It's possible. I would never say anything like that about myself. You know, here's the thing. I'm going to answer your question the same way that I would answer people who say, what about people who are star seeds? What about, I've come to realize through meditation that I'm from the Pleiades. I'm a Pleiadian, I'm not from Earth. And therefore I'm different and I'm special. And, you know, so my response is, I don't give a shit where you're from. I don't care if you're from the Pleiades. Right now you're from planet Earth because you're in a human body. And if you're in a human body, then you have human karma, you have human feelings, you have human issues, you have human problems. You're a human. We all come from somewhere. So I don't know who you're talking about, and I don't want to know because I don't want to badmouth another teacher. And you're kind of on the edge, because if you ask me about another teacher, I'll say I'm not going to answer that because it's disrespectful to them. I don't know who they are, and out of my ignorance, I might say something negative about them that they don't deserve. You might be misrepresenting them, and I could come out and say something negative about them and be wrong. So I don't want that on me. But it's disrespectful to me because you're not asking me about what I teach. And you don't mean it that way, you're just asking a question. So I've kind of lessened some of my things, and people can ask whatever they want. If I fly off the handle, that's too bad, that's just what happens. I wouldn't do that. I would, if somebody says he's the incarnation of Sadashiva, I can't say he's wrong. I can't say that. The reality is that shows a little bit of ignorance about Hinduism, because from the Hindu perspective, only Vishnu can be an avatar. Shiva can't be an avatar. Hanuman is the closest thing to an avatar of Shiva, but even then he's not an avatar. He's sort of like a ray or a reflection of Shiva. We sort of treat him like an avatar of Shiva, but technically Shiva can't be an avatar. Only Vishnu. So if somebody says he's the avatar of Sadashiva, he doesn't understand. The incarnation of Sadashiva, he doesn't understand. Again, I don't know him. It's possible. I'm not going to say it's impossible, but I would have my doubts. You say he's selling people third eye abilities. You say he's selling people the ability to heal, to blindfold read, to move objects. You say that. I don't know that. But assuming that you're right and he is selling people like for $1,000 or for $10,000, I'll give you the ability to heal people, that doesn't make any sense to me at all. Now, if he wants to sell his yoga retreats, if he wants to sell his, if like me, if he's good, like I've got Celestial Qigong, I sell that as a product, but this Qigong is, there's no amount of money that can compensate for the value of the Qigong. You're compensating me for my time and for what I think its value is in terms of a product. But, here's the thing let's talk about healing powers. People do get healing powers. It is not a sign of spiritual evolution. It is a sign of karmic issues. In my belief and in my experience, when somebody reaches complete enlightenment, let's say that person achieves complete enlightenment and is as close to divine as possible in human flesh, that person will exhibit no spiritual powers. Because the people who have spiritual powers, let's say somebody has healing powers. Let's say somebody can fill a room with people and with his hands or with his chanting or with his mind, he can heal people of diseases. It means that in a previous lifetime he caused people physical harm, and the people in that room who he is healing are people he has harmed in previous lives. Now, the universe does not judge and does not demean or criticize. So it sets up scenarios so that the person will feel joy when he heals people with his power. And all that's happening is that the universe has set a scenario for him to heal all the people he's harmed without feeling guilty and without feeling regret or feeling like a bad person, because we don't do things out of regret. Regret doesn't motivate us to do anything. Guilt never motivates us to do anything positive. Joy and love does. So he will be filled with joy and love and want to heal, and it'll make him happy and he'll be humble about it. But he is balancing a karmic debt. So if somebody becomes fully enlightened, meaning they burn through all of their karmic debts, they will exhibit zero spiritual powers. So if you're asking me my opinion about this guy who sells the ability, if he's doing that, he's selling people, karmic debt. That doesn't make any sense, does it? And here's the other thing. I've heard, there's a lot of people who will talk about teachers who have the power. Even people I respect will talk about a true teacher will be able to take away your karma. What a load of bullshit that is. Why in the world would you do that for somebody? Your knowledge and your strength is going to come from you burning through your karma. If somebody takes your karma away, it's like they've taken away, cut off one of your fingers. Why would anybody do that? So stop looking for people like that. If what you say is true, then I wouldn't follow that teacher. I have no idea if he's the incarnation of Sadashiva or not. But none of those things that you have said here, I would find helpful for anybody. Whether he's a fake or not, I can't say. I wouldn't. Here's the thing. We also have a misunderstanding about spiritual power. And this came about starting about 2,000 years ago. And it was most revealed in the monotheist religions and in Buddhism to a degree as well. Because here's the truth. The Gautama Buddha, the man, was a man who ate meat and died of illness. He died a horrible death of illness. There was nothing magical about him. He was extremely human. His message was, the middle path where you have no attachment creates the least amount of pain. That was his only message. The rest of it is all religious stuff that's been put on top of it. I'm not saying it's right or wrong or good or bad, but it wasn't who he is. Jesus coming and saving your soul. All of that is it has given people the idea that somebody who has spiritual power is righteous. Now, our ancestors had a different understanding because, and you see this, the Lord of the Rings is great, Star Wars is great, you have the Darth Vaders, and then you have the Yodas. Power is power. And just because you have spiritual power does not mean that you are righteous or good. So just if what you're saying is true, and this guy has the ability to sell this power, he may very well have that ability, but it does not mean that he is spiritually aligned. That's a Darth Vader. They do exist. I had a Darth Vader as a teacher. He was the most powerful person I'd ever seen. If he was in a room with 20 people with AK-47s, I pity all of them. His power was so immense, you don't want to be in that room. He would kill all of them in ways you couldn't possibly imagine. Stuff that even movies wouldn't even be able to put together. And he was a Darth Vader. He was not, my experience of him was that he was not an aligned individual. That's why he's not associated with me anymore. For my own spiritual awareness. I'm grateful for what I learned from him, but he's not my teacher anymore. So, we have, in the European tradition, we have fairy tales. And in the fairy tales, you have the good witch and the bad witch. You have the evil wizard and the good wizard. We understood that just because somebody had spiritual power does not mean that they are enlightened. So get rid of that idea. Just because somebody has power doesn't mean anything. I doubt that this person has that power. I doubt that severely. But as I've said, I've seen people who weren't aligned who had a shitload of power. So I don't know. Peter Moji, is it truth you wear thunderwear? So Peter Moji, you've been asking questions. I appreciate honest questions and I appreciate respectful questions. So because you did that, I find that I don't think it's cute. It's distracting and disrespectful. If you do it again, I'll ban you from being able to say anything on the channel. But for now, I want to put you in a timeout. Okay, so I know it's cute, but respect my time. Okay. All right, Chris Arcienega, question: is the drug-induced spiritual experience illusory, fake, inauthentic? I have a video about that. Please go. I won't get into it. Please go on my channel and watch the one about marijuana. By the way, if you don't know how to search within a channel, go on to find out for your device, if it's a laptop or a desktop, then you can go to their YouTube channel page, and like mine is Thunder Wizard, DOTCOM. There's a little magnifying glass, click on that, a whole new search bar will come up. You can put any search words you want and find out all of my videos. Find out how to do that on different, iPad and iPhone, there are different ways of doing it, but learn how to do that. Search within my channel about it, because I'm not going to take the time to talk about it right now. So, all right. I only want questions. Ramiel Santos and Sumit, please ask a question. I'll answer it. All right. So I don't see any questions here. So if you have a question, you can ask a question. All right. I don't see any questions. Again, you write the word question, write out your question. I'll answer it for you. Ramiel Santos is trying to ask a question. He wants to know how his spirit animal gets his power. What difference does it make? How does that question help you? The only question you want to be asking is, does that spirit animal give you power? So focus on yourself. Don't focus on other people's business. That's his business. How your spirit animal gets his power is his business. He's there to help you. Don't disrespect him by trying to figure him out. Say thank you and take his power and use it. Okay? All right. I don't see any more questions. I am going to call it an evening. This was an interesting one. Again, if you want to find out your Arudha Lagna, you can go to astrology.thunderwizard.com. Let me see if I can find that link. Where is that link? Links to, is that it? Nope. All right, give me just a second here. Okay, let's get rid of that. And is it there? Nope. You can go here, astrology.thunderwizard.com if you want to get an astrology reading. And if you want to get the 2-for-1 special, go to 2for1.thunderwizard.com. So you can get certified in astrology and rune reading for half the price. All right, so Ramiel Santos is now asking a question. Again, put the word question. Listen to what I tell you. Follow my direction and you'll get a better response from me. Put the word question so I can see it. Otherwise, I don't know if you're just throwing a comment out there. David Turner before you says, question, in your unconscious mind, how do beliefs and karma relate? It's a huge question. I don't have time for that right now. Does karma dictate beliefs we are born with? Yes. And your karma is to work through those beliefs and work through your fears and your messed up beliefs and learn a new way of seeing the universe and learn how to trust and be empowered by it. That's everybody's karma. Ramiel Santos says, how did your teacher get his power? Well, I already told you it was a spiritual martial arts practice. My animal spirit is either a wolf or a bird. I don't know which. Okay, fine. I don't know either. All right, that's it. No more for me, my friends. I'm going to get off here. And thanks everybody for showing up. I will see you guys very soon. Keep me in your thoughts and your meditations. I've got 1 month left, and then I'm just going to be living out of my suitcase. And I'm going to be I get really excited thinking about it. I'll be living out of my suitcase, living in Australia, New Zealand, and who knows wherever else. We don't even know for how long. I don't think I'm going to be back to the United States. I don't know where I'm going to end up, but I think I'm leaving the United States for good. And we'll see. My hope is I'll end up in Australia or New Zealand, but they don't want guys over 45, so unless some hot surfer model wants to marry me, I'll have to come up with some other idea. All right, so that's it for me, guys. I will talk to you guys very soon. Thanks.